I'm Jules Brooke, and this is the Good People Podcast.
It's a tip of the cap, it's a pat on the back, it's a smile from ear to ear. They're the good people from round here.
Yes, welcome to another episode of the Good People Podcast. My name is Andy, and I'm joined today by a very special person, probably one of the hardest working people I know. Always busy, but always extremely generous. Jules Brooke, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, Andy, what a lovely intro. Thank you.
Well, I think you well and truly deserve it because you are quite literally everywhere I look. And I see you're running events, you're doing all sorts of stuff, you're empowering women in business. It's inspiring to watch. So I thought I have to have you on today. I have to have you on the show. So thank you so much for coming.
Oh, it is such an honour. I'm really stoked. Thank you.
So to give people who don't know who you are, which I assume there's not too many these days,
There'd
but
be heaps of them.
To give people a bit of an idea of the force that we're dealing with here today, you would be described as an MC, speaker, interviewer, PR expert and mentor.
Yep.
You're a business coach.
Yep.
And video and podcast interviewer.
Host. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot.
Yes.
Where do you find the time?
I don't know. I love what I do. So I reckon I've got a bit of ADHD, so I'm very good at dipping into lots of things for a small amount of time.
You're very busy.
Yeah, I'm very probably surface level, Ask me anything really deep about any of these things and I, don't spend as much time. But I don't know. I don't know how I do it. I love it. It's just how I've always lived my life.
You were voted in 21-22 a woman to watch in magazines.
I know. It was very, very nice.
Yeah, that's a nice accolade, I guess.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a real surprise. And a lot of that's come out of She's the Boss.
Yes.
And what I'm doing with female founders at She's the Boss, which has really kind of raised my profile a lot.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, for 12 years, I've been teaching people PR, which is when you're supposed to get out there. And I've been pushing it, but I haven't had the same reaction as I have since I got into, really working with women and trying to make a difference.
She's the Boss is great. And if you haven't seen it, we'll come back to that a little bit later, but it's an amazing podcast and video blog that you've been doing.
And membership group. The big thing is that we run these events and have lots and lots of members from all over the country.
Which is keeping you extremely busy.
It is.
And it's good to see. So you, career-wise, you've had a variety of roles.
Yes.
Sales, marketing, account management.
Yes.
Obviously PR mentor as well. You've worked in London.
Yes.
For many years.
Yes.
You've started numerous companies.
Yeah, probably about 4 or 5.
Yeah. And then a little bit of a trend, I would say, from, say, 2015 sort of onwards, towards women in business, empowering women in business.
It's actually later than that, Andy. It started at the end of 2019 when I answered an ad from a guy I'd never met on LinkedIn who said he was looking for someone to interview for his new TV network. And I thought, how cute. I'm a slut for publicity. I'll go for it.
This was Ticker TV.
This was Ticker TV. And I thought it'll be a tiny room in someone's bedroom, a tiny block in someone's bedroom. And I turned up and it was really professional, looked great. I got on really well with the guy who interviewed me. And then he said, would you host your own show? And that's really where it all started.
Yeah, wow. So we'll get into that because I think what I like to do is I actually really like to dig into who's the real Jules Brooke.
Yep.
Because we see a lot of, PR is a lot of...
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, and what was it, like a sheen, I guess, and that's the whole idea of PR. But if we take a few steps back, if we go back only a few years in time...
Okay.
We go back, you're Irish born.
Yes.
Yes, and
born, married, and christened actually in Ireland.
Born, married, and christened.
Yes,
wow.
Kept on going back.
Okay, wow. And then your mother, physio.
Mum's physio.
Yes.
Dad's an obstetrician and gynecologist.
Yes, in the military.
Yes. So when Mum and Dad met when they were 19, when at a rugby show as a first date, I think it was. A funny story, but anyway, then Dad wanted to become a doctor and a specialist, and so he joined the army in order to put him through medical school.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
and you described your childhood environment as being fairly conservative. It was a conservative environment around the military, and
It was, and my dad had been brought up, with a very proper family, but we were very, very close. And the other thing is, when you're in the army, you move around all the time, so you build a very close family unit because you're the only thing that's constant.
Yes.
And so I'm very close to my three brothers and mum and dad. And when we moved to Australia when I was 11, we didn't know anyone, so it was just us. There was no family here at all.
Yeah. And you moved around a lot, like in your primary school years?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. I think I worked out I went to about 10 primary schools, something like that. But it was Germany, England, Cyprus, back to England, back to Germany, back to England. It was all that kind of thing.
That's amazing. Settled in Australia basically for high school years?
Yep, moved here. I actually went to boarding school in England.
Yeah.
And for grade 6, and mum and dad lived in Germany. That was pretty full on.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Australia. I remember it was about halfway through Form 1, which was called Form 1 then, year 7 now.
Yes.
And it was great. I mean, we just couldn't believe Australia. We just found it so free and amazing and different to anything we'd grown up with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it must have been a big change. Belted through high school. We can zip through here.
Yeah.
And then you, at the end of high school, somewhere around there, and this is what I find this really funny. At one point, you've done some more travelling.
Yes.
You've gone overseas at one point, and you've decided to live in what was voted one of the most dangerous places in Jamaica.
So I was 28 when that happened, actually.
28?
Yes.
Right. And what made you go and live in Montego Bay?
It's a great question and a great story because it just happened. And so much of my life is things that have just happened that I've gone with. So I had a graphic design business in St Kilda for a long time. And I got with 2 partners and I got out of it and I got a lump sum of money and I went to student travel, STA, back in those days, and said,
I remember this.
I want to go somewhere hot on the way to my grandfather's 80th in Ireland. And they said, fine. And because I had so much money and I'm terrible with money, I just said, I don't care how much it costs or where I go. And so they gave me a ticket. And then I was sitting around getting pissed with some friends one night and they said, so where are you going? And I said, Montego Bay. And they said, where's that? And I said, I actually don't know. And so I rang the travel agent and I said, where's Montego Bay? And she said, I don't know either. And she had to go and look it up in an atlas and came back to me and said, it's in Jamaica. And I was like, great. I knew nothing about Jamaica other than that line about Montego Bay in the Beach Boys song.
Yep.
That was the only thing I knew. I didn't even know black people came from Jamaica.
Wow.
I didn't know anything. So it was amazing. I arrived. I had booked... I think I booked myself in there for 2 months with a flight in and a flight out, and I thought I'd go travelling around the Caribbean, and I just loved it. So after I always book myself accommodation for the first 3 days. In that time, I found a house. This old blues guy had taken me up the mountain and said, you can stay in this house. It's my grandmother's house. It looked great. And I said, sure. Paid him for 2 months. The next day I went up and he went, no, sorry, not that one. The house next door, which was this crumbling concrete sort of house run by a 76-year-old guy that had never met a white woman before and a 40-year-old guy who was part of the Black Power political party over there. And we just became great mates. It was bizarre. But yeah, I ended up living there. And when I got to London, there's loads of Jamaicans in London. And I said, I lived in Montego Bay in I think it was called Rosemount. And they went, oh, my God, you are a ghetto girl. You did live in the ghetto. So I'm very proud of that fact.
Yeah, there you go. The Adventures of Jules Brooke.
Yeah.
So that you've come back from there, and that's, I guess, where a series of businesses have started after that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You created a, now I've forgotten the name.
That's all right.
Handle.
Yes, so I came back. I worked for a few different companies and I was doing new business, which I don't know why I do it. I hate that kind of pressure, but I like talking to people, so I sort of was good at sales inadvertently. And I met a guy. So I had Jake, who's my eldest son. He was about 3 or 4 months old, and I was with a friend who's in PR, and I said to her, I really need work and I can't find any. And she said, she'd had this huge PR company, and she said, listen, Mark Mitchell, aka Con the Fruiterer, is a really good mate of mine. Let's go and have a chat with him.
Yep.
So when I had a chat, there was a new children's toy coming out, and they wanted Mark to be the spokesperson for it. So I agreed that I would do the PR, thinking that this other friend of mine would help me, and she disappeared.
Right.
And I had a very, very fast learning curve of how to do PR for these products. And then Mark rang me about a month later. Like I really didn't know what I was doing. And Mark rang me and he said, they're bringing out a Best of Con the Fruiterer DVD, and I've told them that you're the best woman in Australia to do the PR. And there was $5,000 dangling, which was very much needed. And I went, great, I'll do it.
I'll do it.
And I got off the phone and I went, shit, I have never done PR. What am I going to do now? So I rang all my friends that were in PR and marketing and said, do you know how to do it? Can you come and help me? They all said, no, we're really busy. Give it a go yourself, Jules. So I gave it a go. And I loved it.
You must have got it right.
Well, also because if you've done sales, you're so used to being rejected, really. You know that sales is kind of a bit of a numbers game, that when you ring journalists with PR, they go, oh, great, tell me more. Like, it's very positive. It's all very, it's not a hard sell.
Okay.
It's just, okay, this sounds like a really good story. And with Mark Mitchell, they all wanted him on. So it was easy. And then I got to do more and more DVDs. The DVD company thought I was great, so they were giving me more. I was taking more. And before I knew it, I started employing other people and turned it into an agency called Handle Communications.
There you go. I have a Mark Mitchell encounter, which I've just realised. Yes,
Ooh,
it's not very personal.
Doesn't matter. Tell us.
When I grew up in the country.
Yeah.
And there was these things called field days.
Yeah.
So for those people who don't know, a field days is like basically it's out in a paddock and they just display farm equipment and stuff like that.
Right.
Farmers. It's like a trade show almost.
For kids.
But for farmers, you know.
Right.
And in high school, we got taken to the field days, which was a couple of hours drive up the road, and, and it was a soggy, wet day. It was horrible. And we get there and they had some entertainment. Mark Mitchell as Con the Fruiterer was the entertainment. But his job was obviously, hey, you're talking to school kids. So you're going to do a bit of comedy and then you're going to give them some good life lessons at the same time. So he had to insert in between
ruler, tula,
whatever. Yeah, I did this a couple of days, yeah, beautiful, all of this. And then he'd go, also, you know who eats the cabbage leaves? The people at the back of the Vic markets, because they don't have a job. He was trying to weave in all these life lessons.
He's an amazing guy, actually. Yeah. I really rate him. He's very funny. He's a lovely, lovely guy. And really knowledgeable with quirky little facts.
Yeah, okay. So that was my random encounter with but of all of the places, it was out in this paddock in the middle of nowhere, and he's giving us life lessons.
Didn't he do that show, which I never watched because it wasn't sort of the right age for me, I think it was called Twister, and it was for kids.
Oh.
And it was huge. It was a massive show for him. It went on for years and years, and I think it was set in the country.
Right.
So I wonder whether that was sort of how he ended up getting gigs like that. Anyway,
I don't know.
Just goes to show what you have to do when you're a star and you need to make money.
Yeah, that's right. You do what you need to do.
That's right.
G'day, it's Andy here from In Other Good News, and I hope you're enjoying today's episode of the Good People Podcast. Do you know back in 2020 we created Grindhog Day, our very own line of coffee beans that supports the amazing charity Food Bank. Every single purchase of Grindhog Day coffee puts food on the table for vulnerable Australians. But we knew that we couldn't just create any old coffee. We had to create something that would rival the best that is out there. So we've got a blend from Colombia, Brazil, and Papua New Guinea, and it's something that I think is purely magical. But you don't have to take my word for it. Why don't we ask these couple of geezers?
How's your coffee, Sonny? Delicious. I can really taste the premium beans. Such a generous aftertaste. Are you old enough to drink coffee? I have a moustache, don't I?
Since we launched Grindhog Day Coffee back in 2020, we have created over 35,000 meals through the food bank system. So if you want to do something good just by drinking good coffee, head to iogn.com.au and order yours today. We've got free and fast delivery for those who live in the inner west of Melbourne, plus we ship Australia-wide. And if you love it, we've got a subscription, so your coffee will turn up on time, every time, and you'll never run out. Amazing. Head to iogn.com.au and order yours today. Now, let's get back to the episode.
You've created Handle,
Yep.
and you were there like nearly 13 years, right?
Yep.
And do you think that's where you really honed your PR skills? Because obviously you're a PR
totally.
expert, but that would have been the...
I totally self-taught, and then I taught a whole lot of other people to do it. And then I realised that it's actually not really hard to teach people how to do PR, and that PR makes a massive difference. And because if you're a small business, well, it makes a difference in business anyway, but if you're a small business and you haven't got any money, which I was working with lots and lots of startups, then PR's free. It's like the best kind of marketing.
Yeah. So free publicity.
Yes, I taught myself, and then I taught a whole lot of other people, and then I had a bit of a light bulb moment with the GFC and went, I could actually turn this into something. Why don't we sell media contact lists and tell people how to do it?
Yeah. And so I guess that's a great segue towards your Handle Your Own PR business. So you created, as the name suggests, Handle Your Own PR, a PR engine.
Yes, so the business was started in 2009 from after the GFC, and I muddled on building different websites every couple of years and go, this doesn't work, okay, I better do another one. And I remember we started off thinking, well, if people pay $3,000 a month for PR, then we'll sell media lists for about $3,000 and we'll put, 1,000 names in it. And I'll never forget, not one sale, unsurprisingly now. But I was thinking, God, $3,000's nothing, when you can do your PR forever. Got no sales, and then realised that really people, it's all well and good. They all say they want media contacts, but what they actually want to know is how to make their story sound interesting enough that the media will pick it up.
Yeah.
So then I moved on from there, and then in 2012, I got out of the PR agency and just focused on Handle Your Own PR. And in 2015, I sold my house, which I wouldn't recommend anyone doing, to back myself to build the PR engine, which is a PR SaaS platform, which if anyone doesn't know what that means, it's software as a service. And it basically means that you go on the website and do everything on the website. So you write your media release and you choose what journalist you want to send it to and you send it out.
It's your PR hub.
Yeah.
And so, at a glance, when you think about it, you're a PR expert and you're teaching people how to do their own PR, which sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like it's going to put you out of business.
Well, it's funny that you should say that, because my business partner at the time, the divine Simone Hayden, and we just had so much fun running Handle Communications together. And I went to her and I said, look, I don't want to do PR for anyone anymore. I just want to teach. And I know you love doing it. So how about you keep Handle Communications and I'll take Handle Your Own PR? And she said, you're bonkers. You're taking the wrong business. And when we first started, she said, all our customers are going to end up doing this. We're going to lose all our business. Yep. And I said, I don't think so. And let me tell you, none of them did it. Everybody really wants people to do PR for them, if possible. But when you're starting out and you haven't got much money and marketing is, tough, then PR is a great solution. So that was kind of the niche that I was going for.
Yeah. So that's obviously worked fairly well for you. What do you think it's important for small business owners to know how to get that free publicity? What's so important about that, do you think?
Well, I just think that PR builds trust really, really quickly. It's one of those weird things. If we read a newspaper or we read a magazine and it talks about someone in there, then we think, for whatever reason, that media outlet has gone out to find the best person, in PR, or the best person in music or marketing or whatever it might be.
I've got the scoop.
That's right. So therefore, people immediately kind of trust you, and they go, oh, this is a service I'm interested in. I'm going to go and look for it.
Sure.
So you get that third-party endorsement, like somebody's telling you, a trusted friend is telling you that this business is quite good. So it works on that level. It makes people look like they're experts in their field. And journalists, and I think the one thing that I try and get across with all my coaching and all my talks that I do is that journalists desperately need people to come to them with ideas for stories. These days, journalists don't sit there and go, I think I need a new story today. What will I do? They actually are told they've got to write 8 stories in a day. So they are desperate for people to send them interesting angles. And even better if you can send them something that's written so they can just cut and paste it and you've sent a photo with it as well.
Saving them time.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I guess, what I started realising. And I have now helped, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of small business owners. And it's made a massive difference to their business.
Yeah. You've got some great testimonials too that I've seen from people that have obviously been really helped. But that wasn't enough for you, Jules.
No.
Handle your own PR engine, selling your house and building a PR engine. Not enough. You decided that you wanted to help women through...
Yeah, well... It really kind of, I have always worked with women, weirdly, through Handle Your Own PR, even though it was open, obviously, to all small business owners. It's the women that always came to me. So I did some analysis after 10 years and realised something like 90% of my customers were women. Mm-hmm. And I'd been helping them for years. And if they couldn't afford it, which I've worked in that land where lots of people can't afford things, I just do it for free. Or I help them, or I show them how to do something.
Yep.
And so it was kind of a natural progression. And then so initially when I went for this Ticker TV thing, I went for Handle Your Own PR. I said to him, I want to tell everyone about how to do PR.
Yep.
I've got this business, I want to talk about it. And he said, fine. But then when it came down to me saying, I really would like my own show, I just thought, you never see women in business on television. You just don't. Uh-huh. There's just never anything there. It's all this light, fluffy stuff about Friends or The View or, all that kind of Studio 10 stuff. And I thought, I want something chunky and, and I want to be able to showcase the incredible women I keep meeting who are doing amazing things. So that's where it started. And I said to him, he had said to me he needed more content. I said, I know loads of people on the speaker circuit who would love to host a TV show, so why don't I introduce you to them? And I gave him 12 new TV hosts, and in return I said, you've got to let me do a show about women in business. So that's really where it all started.
And that was the start of She's the Boss.
That was the start of She's the Boss. I named it She's the Boss, and I told him I wanted to keep the name, that I would grow a community outside of the show.
Yep.
And which I was very lucky, because when you think about it now, I can't think of any other TV shows where you're allowed to when you finish the show, you take the program with you, But Aaron was great, and he said, no, that's no problem.
So She's the Boss started on Ticker TV.
Yep.
You've then left there, basically, and then started your own podcast.
Yes.
And
TV. So I called it a TV show. Uh-huh. You are doing one right now that is pretty much the similar format.
Yes.
And my son, who's 18, agreed to produce it and keeps on going, you're so old-fashioned, Mum. It's not a TV show. That's done and dusted. Think Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
who's Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I was like, look, I'm targeting 50-year-old women. We still think television's pretty cool.
Yeah. I still think I want to call this a TV show a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So I started a YouTube channel, which is Jake did, and then we did I started the podcast first, and then when Tickers ended, I ended up interviewing women from all over the world from my dining room tables during the lockdown.
Yeah, and you're like over 150 episodes now.
I've done 185, I think it is, for the podcast in the bank. And 45 video ones with different women that are on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've heard you say.
I can't help myself.
I know, and I've heard you say at one point you're just recording 4 a week.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull back. I'm now doing 2 a week, even though I release only 1 a week. So there's always loads in the bank.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of them on LinkedIn. Like, I just love LinkedIn. It's my new home for the last couple of years. Uh-huh. And the women that I am finding on there, CEOs of just absolutely incredible businesses and incredible founders with massive followings, and I love them.
You've got some crackers on there.
I just booked one this morning. That's a woman who is from America she started a hashtag Hype Women thing, and I got onto it, and she has started sharing my stuff, and I said to her, would you let me interview you for the podcast, knowing that she's had over 7 million, I think, views of her posts in the last 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And she's gone, it would be an honour.
Oh, great.
So I love it. This is what I love about LinkedIn. It's fabulous that way.
Okay. It's a good bit of advice, actually, for leveraging that.
You can get to very big names.
You've
finally.
had, well, talking about big names, Miriam Gonzalez,
Yes.
who created Inspiring Girls International.
She did, and she did the hashtag This Little Girl Is Me a couple of years ago that a lot of people might know from social media.
Yeah.
And people like Angela Merkel and Michelle Obama and all these women started putting up photos of themselves as an 8-year-old going, this is what I was like and what I wanted to be, and this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I just thought she was amazing, so I found her.
Yep.
Interviewed her and found out afterwards that she was the wife of the
Deputy
ex-deputy
Prime
Prime Minister of England.
Yeah.
She's like on the board of the European Trade Commission.
Yep.
And
Trade lawyer.
She's just an amazing woman.
Yeah.
Really, really lovely.
I think in that podcast, she just sort of slips it in there. I
Yeah.
think she says, "Oh yes, and I'm still married to the former deputy prime
Well,
minister."
she said something.
For
No,
5
I
years
don't
though.
even think she said that. I think she said. It was afterwards that I found that out because I'm the opposite of any good journalist. I don't do any research beforehand. I have a chat with the person live basically and
Yeah.
find out about them while I'm doing it. And I got off the call because she'd said something about the media haven't always been friendly to me and something about politics. And so I went to go and find out who she really was other
Yeah.
than the Inspiring Girls. And went,
Yeah.
oh my God.
in her own right, and I almost
Yeah.
feel bad about bringing up the Prime Minister side of things,
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
Deputy Prime Minister side of things, because
She is
she's a woman in her own right.
She certainly is, yeah.
Yeah. What about the other one that I thought was unbelievable was Libby Moore,
Yes.
who was, for those
It's
who don't know,
divine.
I mean, we're a little bit separated over here, but the chief of staff for the Oprah Winfrey Show.
For 11
years.
Yes, yeah.
And her story's hilarious because she talks about she wanted to be a comedy writer
Yes, wanted to be on Saturday Night Live.
and like just kept sliding doors moments kept happening and just never got there.
But she was this EA, so she started off with, what was his name? Maury, a really, really big name in New York. I can't remember. Anyway, I can't think of what his name is, but really big name.
Yeah.
Then she stopped for a while because she wanted to do this Saturday Night Live and did it for 2 or 3 years and it didn't really take off. So she went back and she worked with Jan Wenner, who is the founder of Rolling Stone magazine,
Yeah.
and worked for him for like 8 years,
Yeah, yeah.
and then gets this. I think someone headhunted her or something. I can't remember
Yeah.
now, but said there is somebody in Chicago who has planes that I want that is
Oh,
looking
yeah,
for an
that's
EA,
right.
and they wouldn't tell her who it was,
Yeah.
and she clocked it and went. The only person there who's got planes is Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah. So
I
that's
mean, incredible.
So listening to those podcasts, well, firstly, congratulations because they're
Thank you.
amazing interviews.
Yeah,
And so it's obviously She's the Boss is now getting some great reach.
Yeah.
You are empowering women every day of the week now. You're out there, you're doing about 18 events a week. You know,
Not quite,
19 podcasts, 18
I
events
think
a
we
week.
did 43 events last year, though, so it's a fair amount. But yeah, I love it.
Now, one of the first times I met you, I actually came to your office and you gave me a bit of help on something. In fact, I was probably only there 20 minutes. And in that time, you managed to not only sort me out in the first 5 minutes, but you also said something that's stuck with me for a long time, which is you were talking about the ability for women in their 50s
Yes.
to get work.
Oh.
And you were saying you really wanted to help people because there's this some sort of barrier that means all of a sudden you can't get work because you're in your 50s.
Ageism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is it about older women in business that excites you? Like what makes you want to help them so much?
Well, I think firstly, because I am a 56-year-old woman, so I get it. And I also think that I'm very positive and optimistic and that I can help people who are struggling, because for a lot of people, they just need someone to give them a pat on the back and tell them they're great,
Yeah.
you know, because they just feel terrible. The other thing was there is awful statistics around women in homelessness. So I knew that I don't know if you know this, but the fastest growing homeless sector is women over 50.
I didn't know that.
Because they're getting divorced and they haven't got super, and a lot of them haven't got jobs. So there are 60, I think I heard the other day, it's either, let's say it's 16,000 women who are 50 plus who are living in cars and have no home.
God.
So there was a little bit of that. There's a little bit about, I know that with a lot of women, there's imposter syndrome and there's this sort of self-confidence issue that I'm pretty good at helping them solve. And I just get them, I guess, really. And I feel that women... And then so what happened through She's the Boss that I didn't know about was I learned a whole lot of facts, and there were 3 that really stuck out in my mind. One was that women over 50 appear in less than 4% of media globally.
Wow.
So we're invisible.
Yep.
The next one was that it was the fastest growing sector of homelessness. The next one was that Australian television programmers are 100%, not 50 or 80, 100% white Anglo-Saxon men over 50.
Wow.
Now, I've tried to get TV shows up and I've got quite far down the road.
Yep.
And they've always been knocked back because they're about women and they go, no one's interested in women in business. And I just couldn't disagree more. So I kept on, all these things were coming up all the time.
No,
and
no one's
I know,
interested.
it's just ridiculous.
I
And
just
then
did a quick check around the room, and no one here is interested in women in
No,
business.
that's right. That's right. So what happens is when you go into TV networks, you sort of start at the top and they go, yeah, we want diversity and we want to support women. And as you go down, you're getting to younger and younger people. And I remember pitching this idea. I had a show called the Mumpreneur Challenge I wanted to do through Australia, England and America that would create a global champion. And was talking with Shine Australia just in the early days when they just started out. And by the time I got down to the producers to talk about it, because the senior guy had said, yes, we want it, they were all 22-year-old guys. And they went, we know Shark Tank didn't work because it was before, it took off again. Shark Tank didn't work. We know people aren't interested in entrepreneurial women. So what's the point? What's the payoff? Like in Biggest Loser, they lose weight and they change their life. And in The Bachelor or whatever, they get married. So what's the payoff for these women? I mean, it was just like, couldn't stand it.
That sounds very hard going. You used the word mumpreneur.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that word?
Well, look,
what do you feel about it now?
Now I think it's completely outdated. I think it's had its time.
Yep.
In 2000, which is when it first started, I was working with a lot of mumpreneurs.
2000?
I bought the domain actually, and it was,
Did you really?
And I was part of the wave of women who went, I can't go back to work in an agency because they want me to work from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. And I've got a young kid.
Yep.
And so you started going, okay, well, I'm going to go out and start my own business. And what I noticed was there were loads of women who were noticing gaps in parenting products and services.
Sure, yep.
So that to me was very much the mumpreneur thing. You have young kids, you were looking for flexibility, and a lot of them were coming up with products that work for
them.
mums with young kids.
Yep.
Now there is even a group called Oz Mumpreneur, and they are giving awards to women who've got 23-year-old children. I don't see that as a mumpreneur. It's just, so now I think it's pigeonholing a little bit.
Sure.
But I feel very strongly about putting talking about female founders and female CEOs and women in front of. In fact, I did a big article for Smart Company last year where I said, I am really proud of being a female founder, and until we have equality, we need to say I'm a woman CEO, I'm a woman female founder. And there are women out there saying, how dare you put that label on me?
Yep.
I don't want to be seen as different to anyone else. I'm a CEO or I'm a founder. It doesn't matter that I'm a woman. And I completely disagree.
Yep.
I think until we are equal, we need to make ourselves more visible. And I think if you're called Chris Smith, how does anyone know whether you're a woman or a man? You need to say I'm a female CEO or I'm a... So that's kind of my...
That's a really interesting
thing.
take, because you do read a lot of people commenting on and saying,
I don't want that label.
I don't want the female label because I am equal.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm going, great, you are, but there's a whole lot of women around you who aren't.
Yep.
And we need to make you more visible. You need to help them.
Yep.
I'm all about lifting up the women around us.
Yeah. Now, if I can bore you with a metaphor.
You would never bore me out.
I'll try and keep it interesting. I think this relates to any sort of social change. But in my head, the best way I can describe it, when you have people talking about, over commentary on feminism, over commentary on, I'm so sick and tired of, I think of it as a piece of wood. And a piece of wood, I love wood.
Yes.
A piece of wood that has been stored incorrectly or out in the weather. And it gets a bow in it. And the bow is like a bias, right? So that's the way it's set. And it doesn't really want to change. Now, you can clamp it straight all you like. You can hold it straight. But if you let it go, the bias, it goes back to where it was. The only way that you can get that board to sit true on its own is to flex it far beyond neutral and hold it there for an extended period of time.
Get a whole lot of other straight boards beside it and clamp it together because the power of having a whole lot of people
Yeah.
talking about it, I think, is what makes a
Yeah,
difference.
so
as
you
well.
have to, if you want the social change, you have to bend
absolutely
it the
have
other way a lot.
Yep.
In order for it to settle true.
And
again.
it's going to be uncomfortable. Look,
Yeah.
it doesn't suit everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not taking everyone on this journey with me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you find your own tribe. I don't, my attitude towards life and the way that I speak and everything doesn't suit everyone. I get that.
Yep.
There's plenty of groups out there where you can find your own path. But there is a growing movement around the world, I think, around this. The fact that women need to support other women, that women who have female support, and there's been a Harvard Business Review research that says that women who are supported by other women are much more successful, and that men, it doesn't matter what the gender is for their supporters, as long as they have support,
Yep.
they will succeed. But for women, it makes a huge difference.
If they have women support.
If they have women, because they're the same as you, and that they've got your back. That's what I think it is, anyway.
Yeah, okay. What about competition between
I
women?
loathe it.
Yeah.
I see it as, look, I don't like to use too much. I don't want to turn people off with too much feminist language, but it is a very patriarchal model, I think, or a male model, to think that you get the best out of people by putting them head to head and making them compete.
Sure.
And it's not something that I have ever liked.
Yep.
I am that. I was always shit at sport anyway, but I am that person that would sit down and go, you know what? You can have the win. I don't even want to,
Yeah.
So I don't believe that that is a model going forward. I like to think that as we get more and more women in power and having their influence, that'll be much more nurturing, and it's going to be much more about, we all have a place. We all can fit into the world in our own way. We all bring something a bit different. So why do we try and make everyone cookie cutter and, the best person wins? It's so survival of the fittest, and I just don't like that model.
Yeah, sure. Well, the parting messages, I guess, of the outgoing Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Oh, my God, isn't she divine?
Well, see, from a distance, because obviously I don't live there.
No, I know. And I know there's a lot of people that weren't happy with her.
Yeah, but from a distance, I mean, she appeared from where I stand to have done a pretty good job, and I have enjoyed the way she's gone about the criticisms.
I agree.
With class, and to say it's possible to have empathy.
And compassion and be
And still
a
lead.
leader.
And still be a leader.
I know I read something about farmers the other day saying she'd made a whole lot of regulations and that sort of thing. Look, on a political level, I don't want to enter the argument. As a female leader and as a woman that you look up to, I thought she was amazing. And I would put Barack Obama as being very similar. He may not have been as effectual as people like, but boy, oh boy, I think we'd all agree he'd be a great guy to meet, and that he's a fabulous orator, and we need people who are great role models in that sense. So I feel both of them did a terrific job.
Certainly standouts. Now, talking about standing out, She's the Boss is really now starting to stand out.
It's starting to.
You're approaching a couple of hundred episodes, plus all the other things that you're doing. Where do you want to take it? What do you want to do with it?
I would like She's the Boss to be... look, what I'm trying to do is make social change happen. So for me, my next sort of model is to start bringing women's groups together and bringing women together from all over the country, because I think it's great that there are probably 10,000 women's groups around the country, but I'd like 10 million women to be in one group, or there to be an alliance so that we all back each other.
Yep.
Ultimately, I would like to see a law come in that says you have to have 50% male and female in your senior management. Wow. You have to have 50% male and female in your boards, and then all those other diversities. So we know that 25% of the population are people of colour, or maybe that's 60, I'm not sure, but we need that reflection. And the other thing that I've found in this journey as I've met, because I do online lunches, I have a whole lot of disabled women that are able to come and network that normally can't.
Yep.
And I had no idea, I don't know if you know this stat, that nearly 25% of Australians identify as disabled. When do we ever see them on television? Where are they on the boards?
Yeah.
Where are they in those roles? So for me, it's really important that we share and that we help people. I mean, I always say to people, go out of your way to help someone. Go out of your way. Don't just say, oh, well, that's easy because it's on my way. Go and look around you and say, who needs a helping hand that I could actually help?
Yeah, and you're known for this. You're known for this.
Maybe in my little area. Anyway.
Just yesterday, someone told me that. They said, Jules is amazing at helping you, but on the spot.
Yeah.
On the spot help. Not just, here's a number for someone to call. You say, let's call them now. Let's
Was
call
that
him right.
Dr. Loz?
No. But
Yes,
basically, that's
well, I kind of also think I have a very short attention span, so I'm like, let's do it now while I remember.
otherwise I'll forget you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. So, you are looking to hold conferences?
I am this year hoping to hold Australia's first female founders conference.
Yep.
But I, again, in the belief that we can collaborate rather than compete, and we should lift the women up around us, I have gone to the founders of 8 other really big female founders groups and said, let's do this together and support each other and turn it into a really big one. And they've all said yes. So we're looking for sponsorship now.
Unreal.
And hopefully at the end of the year, we'll get 1,000 to 3,000 women together for 3 days of amazingness.
3,000 female founders.
Yeah, from around Australia.
That's unreal. That's
my plan, including rural women and disadvantaged women. I've got all of them earmarked.
Well, that all sounds very exciting.
Thank you.
Jules, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And again, you're a very generous person with your time. You've helped me out a lot. And so thank you for all these sort of things. I wish you all the best. Obviously, there's a bit of a timestamp on this episode because, maybe when someone watches it, you've already hosted this thing. And so, we hope it went really well. No, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. Thanks for being such a big character in the community.
My pleasure.
And I think everyone really appreciates the work that you do. So thank you so much, Jules, from She's the Boss, Jules Brooke.
Thank you so much. And I just love, in other good news, I just love everything you're doing too, Andy. So,
thank you so much, Jules.
Well, it's a tip of the cap, it's a pat on the back, it's a smile from ear to ear. They're the good people from round here. They're the good people from round here. Come on, let me introduce you to a few.